Big men slapping meat, the violent Bryan Danielson versus Stark strap match, Jon Moxley and Orange Cassidy close out the show, and much more from AEW All Out from the United Center in Chicago, Illinois. We will give you our reactions, but first,
welcome to the And Still a Wrestling Podcast, your weekly podcast covering the latest in the world of professional wrestling.
big shout out to all of our listeners that are out there and been following us as we start up this podcast, the And Still a Wrestling Podcast. Myself, Morgan, and my good friends Drew and the Oracle, now deemed, we will nickname him Kevin the Oracle, or KO. We should get t-shirts for that because he knows how to pick the matches. And by the way, I am obligated to let everyone know that he won the Drop the Belt Championship. So congratulations, Kevin, for winning this season of the Drop the Belt Championship. You know it all. You are definitely the Oracle. You have earned the moniker.
Acknowledge me.
It's like, I was going to say, shameless shout out to dropthebelt.com for doing fantasy wrestling.
Yes,
the thing you didn't know you needed.
Yep, it's been a lot of fun, boys.
Well, it's been a lot of fun for you, Kevin, because you can't stop winning. I mean, you're like the Max Verstappen of Drop the Belt Fantasy Wrestling. You are like the Roman Reigns, as you did so eloquently earlier. You have basically been the champion since we started this thing. So, congratulations.
Drew won last season, but yes, I took this season.
Really?
Oh, excuse me. Sorry, Drew. I didn't mean to disrespect you like that.
But has anybody dominated? I think I won by over 300 points, boys.
No, you won by over 300 points. I barely squeaked by last season.
Yes, it was very close. Came down to the pay-per-view. Speaking of the pay-per-view, man, what a difference a week makes. We go from an 81,000 in attendance, mediocre card, to a very small, just shy of 11,000, and a fantastic pay-per-view. I cannot wait to get into it with you guys.
And that's what's funny for me is because, you really didn't feel like, at least from what I remember, you came off as if you didn't think that AEW All Out was going to be that good. You kind of had pretty low expectations for it.
I did. I didn't think that what we had seen or what we had been promised prior was going to really be a great show. But damn, top to bottom, it was hard to poke holes for sure. I really enjoyed last night's pay-per-view. Truly.
Well, Drew and Kevin were watching that while I was watching like 6 different college football games all at once. So I'm going to let Drew and Kevin show us or tell us about how they thought about the AEW All Out pay-per-view just on Sunday night. So let's get into it. Let's first up start with the 0-hour portion of the show that kicked everything off. We won't go I don't really want to go match by match, if that's okay with everybody. I just want to know, there were a few things that were in the pre-show. You had the over the budget charity battle royal. You had the trios match, Ring of Honor Women's Champion Athena, Diamante, Mercedes Martinez, Sheeta, Sky Blue, and Willow Nightingale. And then you also had the AEW World Trios Championship match, the Acclaimed versus Jay Lethal, Jeff Jarrett, Satnam Singh. And by the way, the Acclaimed with Dennis Rodman and Daddy Ass. So really a big time celebrity there, old WCW celebrity there. From those 3, any of those your favorite of the pre-show? Drew, we'll start with you.
Who had Dennis Rodman on their wrestling bingo card for 2023? Like, who thought that was ever going to come back up after all these years that we would see him and doing stuff?
Eric Bischoff, that's who had him.
No, I'm pretty sure even he didn't see it coming. I'm pretty sure he was done with that guy by 98.
I mean, at least did Dennis Rodman smash somebody with the guitar? I'm assuming that's kind of, somebody got smashed with Jeff Jarrett's guitar. Is that right?
Yes.
Jeff Jarrett took a guitar shot.
Robin, yeah, exactly. Rodman took out Slapnuts.
Wait. Did he?
Or yes, he did.
Okay, it wasn't Singh.
Well, he smashed the Jeff Jarrett's guitar over Satnam Singh.
Yeah, I would say, like, I thought it
Oh,
was Saddam Singh,
right?
like, the guitar
my
tone.
bad. I thought it was Jarrett. My bad.
Um, so any of those matches good? I mean, what were your thoughts on those three? Did you like the battle? I mean, the battle royal sometimes is kind of hard to predict, a lot going on, but and it's almost like the roster is so big that you kind of you do those battle royals to give some of the guys some TV time. But what were your thoughts on that, Kevin?
Paycheck. So I want to first take a moment and go backwards. I want to call out what I thought was the sign of the night. That being, and I quote, Tony Khan cured cancer, unquote. The fact that following up from last week's All In fallout and the confrontation that CM Punk, Phil Brooks had with Tony Khan, supposedly behind closed doors, after we heard that Tony Khan had released CM Punk, Phil Brooks from his contract with cause, and the fact that Tony Khan went on record publicly and said, I feared for my life. I thought that was very interesting. And I will say I'm happy that we no longer have to talk about CM Punk going forward. However, I think we probably will have to speak to him for the next week or two as he retorts and we get fallout from this. Now, the pre-show. I thought the battle royal was just that, a battle royal. It's very difficult to do anything when you have X amount of men in the ring. There's just no room. I saw guys bump into each other. I saw guys take powders looking for their spots. It was pretty predictable, in my opinion, that Hangman Page was going to win. But kudos to Tony Khan for giving $50,000 to the Chicago Elementary Fund, something along those lines. Um, Hangman, that was his chosen charity, but I think that it was good on Tony Khan to do that, especially in the city of the pay per view. So overall, I think it was a win. Wasn't memorable in my opinion. No, it was a match to fill a pre-show. The women's match, I think the fact that Sky Blue was there in front of her hometown, she did very well. Um, but it was again just a filler to get people a paycheck. And then the third match on the pre-show, I was very surprised by the acclaimed going over, but the fact that that was really just a spot to put in Dennis Rodman, who had appeared on Collision the night before. Again, they're in Chicago. It was good for what it was. We all know that Jarrett, Sting, Lethal, and Dutt are just a comedy team at this point. Karen Angle, Karen Jarrett, whatever you want to call her. She was there for eye candy. I thought it was good. It was fun. It was a 6-minute quick match. Again, a spot to get in Dennis Rodman. Um, Solid pre-show in my opinion. Drew, what'd you think?
I was just gonna add in there real quick. It's like, honestly, the pre-show was fun matches. I mean, they are for what they are. None of them mattered except for the battle royal. Real quick to Kevin here, real quick. It's like I appreciate your attempt. It's like, hey, now that he's gone, we're probably never going to speak of CM Punk again. Here, let me cover the reality of this. Is like we could do this entire show literally on what's going on with CM Punk. But if we're kidding ourselves, like this is far from probably the last time we're ever going to have to mention CM Punk again. It's like that man breathes, and we probably have to talk about it.
Yes, and to that point, we heard of a story from a year ago with Steve Regal, comes out after the fact. But again, it's just all banter and chatter. He's gone. And Morgan, I know you didn't see the pay-per-view last night, but they had merchandised the pay-per-view with his stars and all the banners and all the artwork, his 4 stars that he has. It was sprinkled throughout the pay-per-view. And they never made reference to it, which I thought was kind of interesting. But they had clearly set it up for CM Punk, and it was just too late for them to cancel everything. So
Yeah, that's interesting. I was going to say, because you mentioned Sky Blue, from what I saw, correct me if I'm wrong, she came out, and she might not have been the only one to come out in that popular graphic design that is CM Punk, with the stars and
yes,
the blue. So,
yep.
what are your feelings on that? Considering all the controversy around him, you still have some in the locker room that are obviously pro CM Punk.
That came up last night. Drew and I talked about it, and the first people I thought were FTR. But I will say this: I don't see anybody following out the door.
I was gonna add in there too. It's like that's because that motif that CM Punk uses, that sky blue uses with the stars and stuff like that, is more associated with Chicago than it is. This CM Punk popularized it in wrestling. That's why Sky Blue comes out there and it looks like she's wearing CM Punk's gear. It's more a reference to the city of Chicago than it is to actually CM Punk. But
Yeah,
I'm back on your thing here too that you guys were talking about. Like, I expected, we all thought there was a really good chance that like the Elite was going to get booed in this, arena and stuff. Realistically, like Hangman did not get booed. Omega did not get booed. The only ones I heard the boos really kicking in for was the Bucks, and we'll get to that later. And even that really wasn't a very strong like booing situation.
Yeah, certainly wasn't a hijack. I think we heard a
Yeah,
couple
it
of
was not
CM Punk.
hijacked, that's for
No,
sure.
a couple of CM Punk's chants come out, but they never really caught steam. And then during that match with the Bucks, the boos were light to maybe moderate at some point, but it certainly wasn't the overwhelming majority.
Well, that basically was the pre-show, the 0 hour portion of the pay-per-view, and we'll get into the actual show. Um, Once it kicked off, it started with kind of a good combination of Ring of Honor matches and AEW matches. I do like that about AEW and how they mix the two, and you kind of get some people that again don't get a lot of TV time, but get to really show what they can do in the pay-per-view. It seems like it really has been working out for Tony Khan because Kevin, as you mentioned before we started recording, you felt like you had low expectations, but were pleasantly surprised. And this pay per view ended up being a really good one in your eyes. And so it seems like again, Tony Khan is continuing his streak of having good pay per views. We'll start this one off with the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championship match. Better Than You, Baby, the AEW World Champion MJF and Adam Cole versus Dark Order, Alex Reynolds, and John Silver. Fans were chanting double clothesline, and I believe both of them actually got to hit the double clothesline on each other. Drew, Kevin, we'll start with you this time. Thoughts on this match? Obviously, another one where the seemingly the top two wrestlers in the company start the pay-per-view.
Yes, very, very different format for sure. I enjoyed this match. I thought it was good. The MJF injury angle during the middle was a little bit uh, predictable. You kind of knew, especially since it was the referee and Adam Cole that were checking on him before the doctor in attendance came to ringside. But you could kind of tell it was a work. But we got to see the kangaroo kick. We got to see the double clothesline. And I just want to call out the fact that the Dark Order, man, they're solid. There's no doubt about it. They even tied in the angle where Alex Reynolds in real life was MJF's trainer at the school that MJF went to, so they played a little bit of that history. In my opinion, I think you should spin the Dark Order off. I think you should put them in Ring of Honor and let them run roughshod. I think you should take Matt Hardy, make him the leader of that group, put the straps on them, let them do the um, free bird rule where any of the two or any of the three guys can defend the belts in Ring of Honor. Man, Silver is small, but he can go. I mean, he deadlifted one of the guys, I forget who it was, into a suplex, and he's just impressive. He's a little powerhouse. And Reynolds can go too. And given the fact that Evil Uno is really kind of a mouthpiece at this point, he can go as well. So again, I think they really deserve to be some champion somewhere. Put him on Ring of Honor. Let Matt Hardy come down and be the broken character, and really just go off on a Bray Wyatt kind of angle here with the whole fantasy. I really, really think that those guys are being underutilized, and this match just proved that. Drew, what do you think?
This was the best Dark Order has looked in years. It reminded me so much of like what they were capable of when Brody was in charge of the group. You could
Yes.
feel that like heelish group, vibe to them. They seemed really it clicked. They just, did heelish tactics, and I was enjoying it. Like I genuinely kind of enjoyed seeing Dark Order as heels and a threat, and you could feel it. And whenever you were talking about that, my first thought was like putting them in Ring of Honor and turning them loose. I was like, well, we do have 6-man tag ROH titles. I mean, that's a possibility if you want to do
Yep.
it.
Yep.
So
Yeah. I
I
think I
thought
think
they
they would do well.
I really thought they were going to win, but this is going to be their way to get the belts off of Better Than You, baby. But like we said, the saga continues here, man.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the ride. Whoop, we got an audio problem with.
It's pretty
There we
interesting
go.
to see that. If you really think back to it, MJF has never acknowledged the real world championship. He never even mentioned anything about CM Punk. He never really talked about any kind of unification match.
And he never will.
And now he never will. And honestly, I think it was a smart move. I don't know if he was ever tempted to do that or not. I kind of felt like he would, but considering now that everything has happened, and man, how much have we changed since the last All Out? Last All Out, he was returning, and CM Punk was there winning the championship, and now CM Punk's not here. And again, no unification or anything like that. So I think it's pretty interesting how far we have come, but also how MJF has handled it and really kind of kept himself as the star of the show.
Listen, take it from the Oracle. Don't try to apply logic to an illogical business. That real world champion was bullshit to start with. It was cheesy, weak ass booking. And now we're just going to bury it like it never happened. We're not going to acknowledge it. It's over.
Because MJF can work Saturdays now, I guess.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing too, is like, we're back to where one thing that I will say that's good is we're back to where it seems like the whole roster can work all the shows. Because there was definitely that, weird separation where you weren't going to see certain people on Saturday. And you really don't need that. That's just, to me, poor management, as Kevin has mentioned.
What's going to happen now is they're going to blame the downturn ratings on, well, we don't have CM Punk. And they're just going to take a beating from college football. We all know that's going to happen. So it'll be interesting in the coming weeks on what happens with Collision. Are you going to move a lot of your quote unquote dynamite stars over to Collision to kind of carry the ratings? Or are you going to just say, fuck it, and just let it tank until
There's,
college football is over?
there's no way they couldn't have known going into this that college football is going to take away from their ratings. I mean, if Monday Night Raw and Nitro knew for years that Monday Night Football was going to hit them hard in the ratings,
Yep.
they have to know in AEW that Collision, that Saturdays belongs to college football. That there's no changing that.
Now, saying that, you two are Southerners. I am from New England originally. I did not know college football existed until I moved down here. And I will tell you that the only time you can go out in this area is when there's a Clemson game on because everybody's watching TV, and that's the time to go shopping because I could give two shits about college
You
football.
also can't go out before or after a Clemson home game because you are getting nowhere. If you're in Anderson or Easley, not happening.
Yep.
Well, so, as the match went on, the MJF and Adam Cole were walking back up the ramp, and Samoa Joe, the Ring of Honor World Television Champion, kind of gave MJF a little nudge. Kevin, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, they hit the music while MJF was still gathering himself because he was pseudo injured. So it was very odd to see Samoa Joe walk down while Better Than You Bebe were leaving the ring. And as they came down, Samoa Joe just kind of gave him a little push. He didn't push him off the stage.
I
He
thought
just
he was
gave him a
going to
little.
off the stage.
He kind of should have. He just gave him a little shove. And if you remember historically, there's a famous photo of MJF as a quote unquote bodyguard for Samoa Joe in WWE, where Samoa Joe is walking and MJF's got his hand out. It was almost a reverse of what we saw historically. I thought it was well done. I thought it was a good tie back, and I am all for an MJF Joe match because it'll almost be like a Danielson MJF because Samoa Joe's not going to pull any punches. Judy, you looking forward to that as well?
Yes. What do you call it? It's like Joe is that guy that like he can hold his own in a promo against somebody like MJF. It's like, but you just know that like Joe's that guy where it's like he doesn't have to talk to you as well as he does. that guy just wants to kill you the second you get in the ring. And, that's going to be one of those serious, like, it'll be a great match. I just see Joe versus MJF being a really fun program. One of those that I didn't think about when I was watching AEW, like, but oh man, this is going to be really, really good.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking forward to it.
So overall, what's your thoughts on Samoa Joe, Shane Taylor? I really don't know much about Shane Taylor. I mean, has he been in the business for a long time, or is he kind of a new guy?
So his history
That's Kevin.
is, yeah, his history was he was a convict and he turned his life around, found pro wrestling, and he had Shane Taylor Productions in Ring of Honor for a number of years. And he's good. He's a big, big man. Um, and he can go. I mean, he reminds me a little bit about Bam Bam Bigelow. He does things that you wouldn't expect out of a big man. Um, so it was good. It ended quickly with the Coquita clutch, which we kind of knew was going to happen. It was good. I enjoyed it. I think that match was to set up the push to MJF, and I think that overshadowed the match. But it was good. I enjoyed it. So,
It's like,
Drew, Drew,
I was just gonna say, like, I mean, the match, like I said, the match between Joe and Shane Taylor was it existed for one purpose and one purpose only, to start this feud with Joe and MJF. That was the only reason when they did the thing at the beginning of the match. I thought for maybe just for a split second, they might take the Ring of Honor TV title off him, but it didn't take. As soon as you see Joe drops you in that coquina clutch in the middle of the ring, I mean, with nowhere to go, right
so
away, it's like, this is
let
over.
let's fantasy book that. So if we face MJF versus Joe, what belts do we put up? Do we put up the AEW Heavyweight Champion, or do we put up Joe's Ring of Honor TV title?
Put the AEW World Title. It almost isn't worth it. It's like, why fight for the other title when you can fight for the biggest prize in the game right here?
So, do you think Joe has a legit chance of being booked over MJF?
Why not? It's like, he's a guy that it's like, I think he's a heavy. It's like a AEW World Title contender. I think it's completely reasonable to believe that Joe has the ability to be a world champion in this company right now.
But do you think he's the guy that knocks MJF off?
Um, Sometimes I would think yes, but realistically, like, how is it not? Is like, I thought we were leaning towards Adam Cole being that guy.
Yes, and we are still. But
Yeah. So
fortunately for us, this Better Than You Baby has taken off, and it's pay dirt. It's paying dividends. They're selling shirts. The sales are up. Everybody's enjoying it. So until that fades and the shine is off that shiny new ball, we're going to continue with that until we see what I fully expect to happen is Adam Cole turn heel and go over on MJF, and then you're going to get sympathy for the devil, and he's our scumbag, so on and so forth. So I think you're going to see a stone cold light in MJF for a number of years.
I feel like that. I agree with Kevin on this. I feel like that Samoa Joe, in my opinion, does not seem. Even though I think I like the way he wrestles, I like his history, I like his persona, I like his ring and coming down, his entrance and everything. There's nothing for me that I don't really like about him. Um, Obviously, the injuries and not wrestling a ton here and there kind of hurt him, but I just don't see him being that guy that can lead the organization and put people in the seats. I mean, as you mentioned, Kevin, better than you, baby. I want to see that. Samoa Joe, right now, I like to see him, but he's not an I want to see him. And so that's where I'm coming from.
And it's
okay,
interesting. We like Better Than You Baby because they're playing the hits. Well, the hits only last so long. So after a month or two, it's going to become stagnant, and that's when we're going to see the flip.
okay. First of all, it's like, if you don't see him as a world title contender, it's because you didn't watch in, what was it, 2017 or 2018 or somewhere in there, when Samoa Joe was doing the feud with the Universal title with Brock Lesnar. and he holds his own absolutely, throughout that entire, feud that they were doing. And it's like as far as like him being that company guy, it's like a lot of these stories about CM Punk kind of lead up to this belief that he was the kind of guy that, made things work there at the end because Punk didn't want to go out there. And it
Can we
sounds
re-
like he talked him into it.
can we really expect him to put on the same performance he did 8 years ago with Brock Lesnar on a regular basis? I'm
Who
not sure.
knows? It's like, who knows? But I'd like to find out.
All right, we know how you feel.
All right, so let's continue the pay-per-view here. We're going into the TNT Championship match. Luchasaurus with Christian Cage, the champion. I don't know which one's the champion. Is Christian Cage the champion or Luchasaurus the champion? Depending on who you ask. It could be Christian, it could be Luchasaurus, but versus Darby Allin with Nick Wayne. Jim Ross joined the broadcast booth for this match, and it was a very impressive victory for Luchasaurus after everything was said and done. I really felt like that. I like Luchasaurus as a character. I do like him with a championship belt. And after the match, Christian Cage really wasn't asked about the match specifically, but the biggest thing he was asked about was whether or not Edge, his friend, would be joining him in AEW. And he said, basically, I talk about Luchasaurus and myself, and that's it. And Luchasaurus is my only friend.
I'm going to vehemently disagree with you on the character of Luchasaurus. I don't like the fact that he doesn't speak English and he just grunts and groans, and uh, Cage speaks to him in whatever language. It's very childish, and it worked with Jungle Boy, the boy and his dinosaur. But I mean, we all know he's an adult. He was on a reality TV program without the mask on. I'm not a fan of it. The one thing that stuck out in this match, because every Darby Allin match is just a stunt show, Darby took an unprotected headshot into the stairs on his temple and split himself open hard way. And man, he is going to be Dynamite Kid of this generation if he doesn't slow down. The kid's going to get hurt. I didn't really think anything of the match. In fact, like I said, all I really recall is that unprotected headshot. But yeah, it was a Darby Allin Luchasaurus match, and Luchasaurus went over.
When you mentioned that, it's like from the music to the mask to the presentation, how he doesn't talk. It's like Luchasaurus is AEW's Kane. That's it. It's like, and Christian's playing the sort of Paul Bearer esque, role, except he can actually go in the ring. While Paul Bearer clearly was never designed to do that. But I mean, it's fun. It's like I can live with it. It's like, but as I said, this is all about Darby Allin's stunt show.
Let's consider the fact that Nick Wayne, I think, is going to get pushed to the moon once he works out his little quirks here and there. He has been at All Out, he's been at All In, and I think they're going to strap the rocket to him. I think what you might see is a decent tag team in the future with Darby Allin and Nick Wayne, but that's just a thought.
Do you feel like Nick Wayne is that guy? Like, I mean, I don't know. When I look at him, when I see him wrestle, to me, he's got a long way to go.
Yes, and I think pairing him up with someone like Darby Allin is going to help. And then the fact that they may have somebody behind them that's doing agenting in their matches and helping the younger generation become that next generation. You're right; he's not much to look at, but neither is Daniel Bryanson, right?
True.
I mean, Bryan Danielson to me is legit. I mean,
Brian Danielson is bagging my groceries at Whole Foods. Come on.
I don't know, man. I feel like I buy, if he's any belt he has, I'm buying it. Any match he's in, I'm buying it.
Because you know who he is. But if you saw him on the street, if you saw Nick Wayne on the street, Nick Wayne is some kid that's going to a mosh pit, and Daniel Bryanson literally is in his Hey Dude shopping at Whole Foods. These are not Billy Gunn, Kane, Undertaker human beings. They're 5'6" to 5'10", 200-pound to 160-pound dudes. They're not quote unquote pro wrestlers. They're average guys, and I think that makes them interesting.
Kevin, do you even go to Whole Foods? It's like I go to Whole Foods weekly. It's like he's not bagging groceries there. He's stocking shelves. Get it right.
Yes, you're right. My again, I will call it where it is. My mistake.
He's a shelf stalker at anything. But yes, everybody at Whole Foods I've ever been to pretty much has the beard and the long hair exactly like what you're talking about. I'm pretty sure I've made that comment numerous times before. It's like, why does every dude that works here looks like Daniel Bryan?
I'm not buying it at all. I still can't. You can tell me all you want about this and that about Nick Wayne. I mean, he definitely looks like a guy that if he wasn't wrestling, he'd still be playing video games and have just a part-time job. I mean,
Says
I
the
just
man says the man that sleeps with a life-size Hulk Hogan doll, right?
Oh, jeez. All
Hey,
I
you
ask
know what?
is
I like that. It's very comfortable.
Hey,
don't
everybody enjoys a good body pillow.
just don't wrestle like Darby Allen. You want to be like you'll hang Darby Allen. That's fine. But if you want a long tenured wrestling career, I highly recommend not doing exactly like Darby Allen does. Because it's like I always said, whenever back in the '90s, like I said, Matt's going to wrestle for years, and Jeff Hardy's going to be the one that's going to be out in a couple of years. The way he's taking bumps and damaging his body, I was wrong then, but you know Darby's like that turned up to 11.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, next matchup is the Redeemer Miro versus Powerhouse Hobbs, which I'm excited to see more of Miro. It seems like after this, we're definitely going to see more of it. And this is where the fans chanted, "Slap that meat, slap that meat."
Big meaty men slapping meat.
Thank you,
Fun
Big Meat.
match. Fun match. It was stiff. Those guys would go. There was a point where they were slapping each other across the face, full on, not pulling it for about six, maybe five slaps each. Solid match. They did the whole clothesline where each man would stand. Typical big man match. They worked a big man style, but it was more than I was expecting out of the two of them, especially since we only see I think the graphics showed Miro was 3-0 in 2023. Well, shit. We're in the month of September, 9 months. That means he has a match every other month. Is that right? Every third month. Sorry, every third month. So again, not much out of Miro, not expecting much, and they put on a solid match. Let me say, Hobbs has come a long way. I guess in the back, he's under the tutelage of Mark Henry, and Mark Henry has got him turned around body wise. He went from a chubby kid to a jacked dude, which I'm impressed by in a very short time, maybe a year or so. And now he's working a big man style. I enjoyed the match. I want to see more of that for sure. And then the fact that the Redeemer's wife came down. We don't know what her name is. He didn't acknowledge her. In fact, he looked to be offended that she was there. So it was good, and it introduced CJ Perry. So I'm all down for that. I have no problem seeing more of CJ Perry.
Remember, he has forsaken everything to be, to redeem himself. That's why he kind of gave her the cold shoulder.
Yeah, I don't know where they're going with that. But again, I'm happy to see more of CJ Perry.
Yeah, I guess that would be the question: is where are they going with this? Neither one of these guys have belts, and as far as I can remember, I don't know much of a story, but behind the two, is there anything?
Well, not only that, we don't even see him very often in general. Miro, again, he's only had 3 matches so far this year. Now 4 with last night. So unless they're going to give him more TV time and explain the angle, maybe she's going to be a mouthpiece, maybe she's going to be a manager. It left us wanting more and a lot of questions. And I don't know if I've said it yet, but I don't have a problem seeing more of CJ Perry.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you said that.
Did I? Okay.
I think I remember that.
Yeah.
And I'm in agreement. But we've got a lot to go with this story. I mean, it's just really just beginning. Do you feel like that having him beat Powerhouse Hobbs was a good start, at least?
Uh, I didn't expect Hobbs to go over to begin with. And I forget he put him in what's the movie? Is it the Redeemer? It's basically the
Game
camel
over.
clutch. Game over. Game over. And he actually didn't somebody say he was going to make him humble, so there was a tie back to the Iron Sheik. I think somebody on commentary said he was going to make him humble. But again, I'm just happy to see more CJ Perry.
We're not finishing the rest of that phrase.
All right, so
moving on.
we're going into the next match is the TBS Championship match. On the women's side, you got Chris Statlander, the champion, versus Ruby Soho with the AEW Women's World Champion, Saraya. Saraya distracted the ref. Towards the end, she distracted the ref while Ruby grabbed a can of spray paint. And out of nowhere, Tony Storm crawled out from beneath the ring, took the can away from Ruby, and Statlander spiked Ruby with the Sunday Night Fever and pinned her to retain. Thoughts on that? I know before the show you were talking about how it was kind of a botch there from Tony Storm.
Yeah, let's talk about the technicality of getting Tony Storm under that ring. She would have been under that ring from before people were led into the arena. So let's say 6:30, 7 o'clock. And then Morgan, do you have the time that this match went on? Like what time of the night it was?
Not on the sheet I'm looking at,
All right.
but I mean, we're getting closer to the end of the,
Let, yeah,
four matches, four to go, five.
let's say she was under there for 3.5 hours. Now we know that they give him a TV, they give him some type of apparatus to sit or lay down on. Um, she does have an earpiece like the referee has, but yeah, she was under that ring for at least 3 to 3.5 hours. And then when it's go time, she pops out and she's on the wrong side. So she has to run around. She looked confused for just a moment. And Morgan, before the show started, we talked about the fact that maybe she was sleeping. I don't know if she was sleeping, but she certainly blew her spot, and it was comical to see her pop out. The match was the match. It wasn't very good. Um, Statlander needs somebody like a Mercedes Martinez or an Athena or a Willow Nightingale, somebody with a little bit of mass. And I'm gonna use Jim Ross's "She's a Big Girl" line. Statlander's not a big girl, but she's thick and she can go. She needs somebody that can go with her, and Ruby Soho isn't that person. Ruby Soho might be 125, 130 pounds. Stats probably 160, 170, and she can fight. So I want to see an Athena, a Willow Nightingale, a Mercedes Martinez, and let those two women go, and let's see what we get.
First of all, it's like, if I may, it's like, well, it's like, as we mentioned in the last thing, it's like this is the match where kind of we start to zone out a smidge, because I thought it's like, I dug the Zoolander reference with Statlander's gear, which is, like I said, if you watch Zoolander, you would get it. If you haven't watched it in years, it probably flew over your head for a second until they mention it, and you're like, oh yeah. Um, it was an all right match. I guess the good thing about the Tony Storm thing is I guess they're moving with her being more of a face, and I was like, oh, thank God the Outcast thing is probably done now, and we can move away from this thing. It was never taking off in the first place. We were about half interested. This is when we got reminded. It's like, oh yeah, Kevin's wife brought in apple crisp and ice cream for us, so we're super stoked about that than we were the match.
Yeah, this match needed more CJ Perry for sure.
I mean, you didn't like Chris Statlander's nod to Zoolander with her outfit?
I did. If I may, also the other thing that bothered me about this match, like I said, she wins with, like I said, Sunday Night Fever. It's like, that was the Big Bang Theory. Just because you swapped out of the alien gimmick, you do not need to rename your moves and whatnot. It's just not necessary. It's the Big Bang Theory. Call it what it is. It's like, I don't know. That one irked me a little.
On Wednesday nights, it's called the Wednesday Night.
Oh
Fever.
God.
I actually agree with Drew here. Well, actually, no, wait. Let me think about what I'm thinking about. I don't agree with Drew because, as Kevin mentioned in the last match, I don't really like that Miro has this Redeemer character, but then his finisher is still game on or game over.
Game over.
And so I'm like, I know he's a gamer kind of guy. So I think that's originally where he got it from. Maybe I'm wrong, but
yeah, but he changed it because it was in WWE. It was called the Accolade, and I guess probably because WWE, he can't call it the Accolade anymore, so he just renamed it to Game Over. It's like, this is AEW. She was, she had the Big Bang, theory as it was, and then she comes back and like, no, now it's called this. And
Let me say the one thing about Chris Statlander that I'm happy about is that she's back with Best Friends, and they're all the cohesive 4 people again. So I enjoyed
it
that.
did look cool.
So in last night's media scrum, she said, quote, if it weren't for Orange Cassidy, I wouldn't be the half the wrestler that I am today. We wrestled a few times in the indies and we were friends, but it wasn't until we both came to AEW that we really became best friends.
I'm happy for them.
Nice use of the best friends reference there. Nice.
I do feel like AEW is one of those promotions that it seems like now some of the controversy aside, it seems like the majority percentage wise of talent is willing to help each other out. And as you mentioned, Kevin, a couple of times, there's different wrestlers that are learning under other wrestlers past and present. I feel like that's not always been the case in wrestling, and AEW seems to be doing pretty well with that, considering the fact that they have a ton of young talent and a ton of unknown talent.
Yeah, they're trying to make homegrown stars, and you have to appreciate it for what it is. And I think that Best Friends are some homegrown stars.
All right, so big time match here. I know this was probably, I'm assuming this might have been one of your favorite matches out there, the no disqualification strap match. Absolute Ricky Starks versus the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. Then with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat joining the broadcast booth for the match. This one was a violent and brutal match that you would expect from Danielson, and Ricky Starks really got beat up here. But overall, even though Bryan Danielson returned from injury and defeated Ricky Starks, it seemed as if Starks made a statement, even in defeat, refusing to quit no matter what. He got praise from literally everyone inside and outside the locker room for that match, even in the loss.
Yeah. So he cut a promo on Saturday night that was more truth than it was work. Every time he gets a push, he gets screwed for whatever reason. And with CM Punk obviously being fired, that was the match that was supposed to happen last night. But the fact that they brought in Danielson, I think Starks was galvanized as a star last night, for sure. That was a brutal match, and I don't think I can ever think of a time in a wrestling match that I said, "This is getting uncomfortable to watch." They were taking strap shots to the face. I mean, and it was unprotected, legit strap to the face. That match was a strap match for the ages. It reminded me of the Roddy Piper, Greg the Hammer Valentine match in the 80s, in which Piper wound up losing part of his ear. It was just that brutal. I don't think Starks bled, but Danielson definitely bled. And it was a very, very good match. I watched a few minutes of the scrum last night, and Danielson said, Starks carried me. He's like, there was a lot of smoke and mirrors in that match. The fact that his arm is clearly not completely healed. He had an air cast underneath the bandage. We kind of saw that during the match. Some of it got exposed, but I was thoroughly impressed by this match. This was top 2 matches of the night, in my opinion. I really enjoyed it.
I'm going to catch so much hell for saying this, but that match was probably better with an injured Bryan Danielson than it would have been with CM Punk. And I say that solely because Danielson just brought this brutal, brutal element to it. Like to the point where, I didn't see it as much. Remember we did the MJF, CM Punk dog collar match years ago. I thought that match was, it was a fantastic match, and it was brutal for what it was. But boy, howdy, when Danielson got his hands on the strap and started using the strap, you could tell a level of like physicality was raised from when Starks used the strap. It was your typical wrestling, what I expect. When Danielson started using the strap on Starks, you heard those shots and they sounded just awful. Like, especially like what you were saying, Kevin, like when he starts hitting him across the face with the strap, it was, just you cringed
And
because
then
you heard the sound it made.
let's add the fact that the blood soaked into the strap, so the strap was pink. It was great. It was a strap match for this decade for sure. I really enjoyed it. In fact, I may go back and watch it again. It was so good.
It was a fantastic match.
It looks like everyone on Twitter is agreeing with you. I don't see a 5 stars here, but I see doggone close to 4.75, which is kind of crazy. Just go ahead and give it 5 stars. Don't give it 4.75, guys out there. But I agree with everything you're saying. The strap being bloodied and pinkish, cream, like it just looked brutal. And then just seeing Danielson just really sling it with him hanging upside down in the corner, and then the very end. How about that
Finish.
ending, fellas?
Yeah.
How about that? I mean, he is.
Starks.
I'm watching it right now. His eyes are popping out of his head.
Yes.
His
The
forehead
vein.
vein is
Yes.
popping. I
Yep.
mean, and then he hangs on to the last moment. Now, I don't think he actually really blacked out, but
No.
he was close.
Yep.
And you got a lot of respect from me for trying to really, really put over that passing out. I mean, I love it.
Dude, when I watched that match, all I could think of is, man, when they take a shower after this, you're gonna hear him scream in the arena. When that water hits those scars from that strap, oof.
Ouch. All
I
right, the
would love
next.
to see what they look like today. Like,
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be great to see them on Wednesday night. Really, I mean, you're
Yeah.
going to be able to see. I mean, how does Starks not come out to a huge pop if he is there Wednesday night? If
He's
you
a
know,
made
I'm
man now,
assuming.
that's for sure.
So the next one up is the New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong Open Weight Champion Eddie Kingston and Ring of Honor Pure Champion Shibata versus the BCC, the Blackpool Combat Club Ring of Honor World Champion Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta. Taz joined the commentary team for this match, and Claudio took down Kingston with a short arm lariat towards the end. Claudio used the hammer and anvil strikes and followed up with a neutralizer for a near fall on Kingston, but then Eddie knocked down Claudio with a spinning back fist, and Kingston rocked Claudio with a Northern Lights bomb, but Yuta jumped in to break up the pin attempt. Finally, Claudio wrecked Kingston with a European uppercut and pinned a stun Kingston to end the match.
So let me educate you here. A spinning back fist in Japan is called the Oricon. And I've never seen an Oricon delivered like I saw Shibata hit Yuta with. When he hit him, the sweat on Yuta's body, it looked like a cartoon. It was so stiff. I really don't know how Yuta didn't get knocked out. He was certainly loopy for a moment. He was trying to stand and he clearly wasn't. But damn, I liked the fact that Claudio would not acknowledge Eddie Kingston. Anytime he was around, he would turn his back like he didn't see him. I enjoyed that.
He
And I
was
think I think Excalibur said it. I don't think I've ever seen a match, or it might have been Nigel. I don't think I've ever seen a match end on a European uppercut. It was a good, solid, stiff match. I like Shibata's work. I think it's fantastic. And good on Kingston, man. He's turned himself around and he's finally in a federation where he hasn't screwed himself out of a position. Good on him.
I was gonna say too on that that hit that Yuta took. It's like if you actually listen, it's like I think that's the one where Nigel on commentary mentions like that hit makes me never want to get back into a ring ever again. The shot he took, he just blasted him. I think a thing I got from this match was, and Morgan, if you'd seen it, you would have appreciated. It's like Shibata is that guy. I mean, he just sat there and absorbed at one point, just sat there absorbing European uppercuts from Claudio like they weren't a big deal to him, and just kept on going like like it's not a problem. And also back to what you were saying, Kevin, it's like I love the whole thing where like not only did he turn it every time when Eddie Kingston get in the ring, did Claudio jump out of the ring and turn his back not acknowledge him, but he's also willing to completely sacrifice Wheeler Yuta getting his ass kicked. Oh,
So we know that obviously there's a legit back history between Eddie Kingston and Claudio Castagnoli, dating back to the Ring of Honor days where Claudio called him out for being fat and out of shape and didn't respect him and yada yada yada. And they legit had heat. So here we are now. I think it's been a year since Claudio has been here. I think he was introduced at All In last year. Um, Clearly, they work each other now. They have a working relationship in which they can have a match. How long until we get a face to face, and do we get that at a major pay per view? I want to see that.
Yeah, I think we got to get to that. I mean, it's a good solid story here. You know, even if the people don't understand the background, like you said, of what this match is,
They've explained it
Eddie
though.
has
They've
a
mentioned it numerous times.
yeah,
They
Eddie can sell this. You know, he's that good on the mic. You know that he'll sell you on why you should care about him and Claudio fighting.
and we know Eddie Kingston thinks this is all real, so that makes it even
Yeah,
better.
That's what I was about to say. Starting out in watching AEW as the casual fan of the group, I never really felt like I kind of was more Claudio style. Like, man, this guy's got a big belly. He looks like he's just, my dad's out there just, trying his best. But then he was kind of crazy. And some of the stuff he said, I said, man, is this guy like got a couple of screws loose? I mean,
Yes.
this is
yes.
weird here. And then all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute. I think this guy actually feels like everything that happens is real, or at least he has figured out how to compartmentalize the part of his brain to where, like, when the cameras turn on, it's real to him. And, bless him for that, because, man, his promos are much better. The shows are much better. Hey, AEW is much better, in my opinion, with Eddie Kingston. And I can't believe I'm saying that.
I love about Eddie Kingston too that like he has this thing about if you watch his matches, whenever he comes up with something absolutely elaborate, plan, just how giddy he is when it actually executes the way he wants it to.
Yeah, let's face it though, he's never going to be anything more than a mid card guy. And I'm okay with that. I think he's a solid mid card guy.
He's the everyman. It's like he's the most normal looking wrestler there is, and like you said, he's got that stomach on him and stuff. But like, if you've ever heard him talk about it, he's like, he said like, yeah, I've got the.
He likes catering.
He said like, I like food. I'm not going to give up on Italian food or any of that stuff just because I don't just so I can look a different way. He said, but I can still kick your ass.
Yeah.
Well, let's go on to my favorite wrestler, the cleaner, Kenny Omega, the cleaner version of Kenny Omega versus Konosuke Takeshita. And let me tell you something. This super blue thunder bomb, absolutely crazy to watch. Guys, thoughts on this match? I mean, obviously, I think two of the best wrestlers in the world right now. I love watching these guys.
The Blue Thunder Bomb was the spectacular one to watch. Kevin, you want to elaborate on the move that?
Oh, I think we might have lost Drew. That's okay.
Well, just keep going.
Yeah. So
You'll be next.
basically, you had mentioned the Blue Thunder Bomb off the top. That was interesting because Kenny didn't land very solidly on that. He kind of came down a bit sideways, and his shoulder and back took the hit. But this match, in my opinion, was match of the night, and no one was going to follow this. The brutality and the believability, starting from the beginning, right off the bat, there was homage to DDT and Kenny's outfit. DDT is where Konosuke and Kenny have wrestled before. They called out the fact that Konosuke had never beaten Kenny prior, that Konosuke has been in the business since he was 17. Don Callis playing in this. I thought it was fantastic. There was a spot, and I don't remember if it was a suplex or a sheer drop brainbuster, but man, Kenny came down on his head. And if he didn't train his neck, that would have normally snapped someone's neck, and we could have seen a very serious injury last night. I was at Drew's house and I jumped off the couch, which is not something I usually do because I thought for sure we were going to see a Buff Bagwell scene all over again. The match was great. The spot with the screwdriver into the mat that had to have been gigged all night because we all know it's a very thin mat with 2x6s, and that screwdriver went right through it. So again, kudos to AEW's prop builders, whoever that is, and the fact that Don Callis and Konosuke Takeshita knew where the spot was on the map. I'd like to know how they knew that and how it was designated because it was fantastically placed. I thought the match was excellent. I think it was a 5-star match, and I think we're going to see big things out of Konosuke Takeshita going forward.
like you pointed out there too. It's like we both like that holy shit, like we thought the match was over when went for that. It was, I guess it was a back, like some sort of form of suplex, but yeah, like Kenny just lands and we thought the match was over right there. Just the way he lands right off the bat in that match. It's like it took us a minute watching like the motions. Like, all right, Kenny's clearly going through the motion. He's doing moonsaults now off the guardrails. Like, okay, he's fine. But boy, howdy, that was a hell of a drop he took. Same thing with the Blue Thunder Bomb. Like he lands, like I swear he lands on Takesha's leg, coming down there. It's like it was a absolute brutal match, but a 5-star match at that.
I think it's going to set up an awesome story for Kenny to make a comeback. I think he's lost like 3 or 4 straight matches now since Don Callis hasn't been with him, and that's setting up a future story, which I am all in for because I want to see Will Ospreay and Omega again. I really do, and I think that once Ospreay's contract is up with New Japan, he's going to join Callis, and we're going to run that back for I think it's the third. No, this would be the fourth match between those two. I don't care. I want to see it again because, in my opinion, those are two of the best guys in the industry today.
Speaking of some of the AEW's top guys putting over the younger talent, the 8-man tag team match was second to last right before the main event. AEW World Tag Team Champs FTR, Cash Wheeler, Dax Harwood, and the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, versus Bullet Club Gold, Austin and Colton Gunn, Switchblade, Jay White, and Juice Robinson. Fans were chanting "Go Young Bucks." They were chanting a Super Kick Party. They were chanting AEW. This match was exciting. And at the end of the day, Jay White hit the Blade Runner on Cash, and Austin was there to pin for the win. So back-to-back Elite losing with Kenny Omega and then the Young Bucks and FTR after that.
Yeah, this is strange placement on the card. I was surprised that this match went before the main event. I think it brought the crowd down a little bit. They slowed everything down after that Kenosuke Takeshita match. The placement was weird. The match was good. I think the guns are actually coming along quite nicely. I think that they still need a little time. There's clearly one brother that's better than the other, and I think you see that on an almost match by match basis. But it was good. I mean, it's typical. You're going to see Young Bucks hit all their highlights. You're going to see FTR hit all their highlights. This was not a match classic, but it was a good match for what it was, and it continues the storyline with the Bang Bang Gang. I enjoyed it.
It served two real purposes. I think it served to show FTR and the Young Bucks being able to cooperate, to be on the same team. And then it also served like we're clearly elevating Bullet Club Gold to another, the next level here. I think they're going to be the team that carries, Collision as a show now. I mean, Jay White could be that guy as far as like, we can build a show around this guy. He's got the talent for it.
Yeah, I agree. Jay White is excellent. We're just seeing the beginning of it.
Yeah.
I think that Juice Robinson as the Stooge is fun. He can also go. I've seen some amazing matches from him. Overall, again, I enjoyed this.
Did you see that there was the after thing where they had the interview backstage with Bullet Club, and really that entire promo they cut backstage did a great job of like establishing the fact that like they knew that Jay White knew what he was doing, taking the guns, that he believes in both the guns and sees the potential there. And I thought it did a great job establishing like them as a unit. Like, yeah, we knew what we were doing. This isn't something we just put together. Like there was careful planning. We know these guys are, worth our time, worth us investing and taking along for the ride. And
Yep.
that, Bullet Club Gold's going to really be something here.
And kudos to AEW for not saddling them with their dad. I think Billy Gunn, along with the Acclaimed, is much better than he had been with his sons. So they gave him that once in a lifetime wrestle with your sons match, and that's over now. I think it's excellent that they separated them and they're in completely different angles. I think we could see Bang Bang Club go against the Acclaimed in the future, however.
I will say for Morgan's sake here, it's like that match, this 8-man tag match is like, was it one of the best matches of the card? Not really, but it was fun. This is one of those matches where like just it really was. It's like everybody was having a good time, enjoying watching this. It was there towards the end. I don't know what it was. Somewhere around the end, the crowd began to sour on the Young Bucks, and somewhere in the like near the latter part of that match, you finally started to hear the boos when the seat when Young Bucks start kind of doing showboating things, and that's where you hear an obligatory, CM Punk chant start up. But like we were talking earlier, it's like there was no hijacking the show here in Chicago.
No, to your point, it was there was a couple of times where they tried to get that CM Punk chant going and it never took off. And you're right, there were a couple of times that they were booed, but in the end they were cheered. And as they walked out, everybody was giving them high fives. So
Yeah.
I think that they've overcome the stigmata of CM Punk, and we're moving on.
The problem is gone, as Mark Henry said on Busted Open. The main event time again. This card, as we're going through it, basically has been a card to bring up, that younger talent, to put over guys that really have put in the work and the effort. Ricky Starks, and now we're getting into it. Orange Cassidy, basically ending the night, bleeding. John Moxley winning the belt from him and becoming the new AEW International Champion. But overall, the entire crowd saying thank you to Orange Cassidy as the show ended. I think it just shows how much the fans have really latched on to Orange Cassidy and how wrong the quote unquote experts were about what he could do on the big stage.
How did the World Wrestling Federation win the Monday Night Wars against WCW? They didn't have stars. WCW took all the stars away in the 90s. They threw money at all those guys like Hogan, Savage, and Luger, and Piper, Flair, and all that stuff. WWF won the Monday Night Wars by establishing and building new talent. They made, Austin a huge star. They made The Rock a star. They made Foley, Goldust, and Kurt Angle, Triple H. They made stars. It's like if AEW wants to survive, it's like All Out was a move in the right direction, establishing these guys as new, exciting talent. Wrestling needs something fresh, something, new. It's like you can't just keep, like the WWE has a bad time of doing, which is like, just relying on stars from the Attitude Era, the pop ratings and stuff. No, making us care about guys like Ricky Starks, making us care about Takesha, and making us care about guys like Orange Cassidy is how you're going to get people to tune in. And this match with Moxley and Orange Cassidy did a great job in the sense of like Mox came into this the big star, and even though Mox won, he took the international title off him. Orange Cassidy looked like the star. You saw the character development with him where it's like he's slowly moving away from, it's not all about the sloth or the, kicks and stuff like that. You see, we're finally seeing him as the actual talented wrestler he is.
Instead of that being the main thing, it's now, part of his overall character who is much bigger. Kevin, 31 title defenses. Man, what a run.
You know what I learned? Man, gingers can bleed. That kid bled like a stuffed pig. There was more blood on that mat than in a typical NWA 80s match. I thought the match was good. It was very brutal. There was no doubt about it. Orange Cassidy just took an absolute beating, and Moxley took a beating too. But man, he bumped his ass off for Moxley. He was believable in the match. He kept the comedy out of it for the most part. I thought the finish was solid. He took everything Moxley had, kicked out, and then just finally gave in. It was well done. I don't know if it should have been the main event, but it was good. I just want to know now what we're going to do with Moxley with the international belt. He's certainly not going to defend it 31 times, that's for sure. Can he take it to New Japan? Because we never saw Orange leave the country, to the best of my knowledge. I think that might be the reason why they put it on Moxley. That, or just to hotshot it to someone else. And again, who knows where we're going to go with that, but I'm interested and I'm in for the ride. Overall, I think this pay-per-view was a solid 7. They made chicken salad out of chicken shit at the last minute. On paper, I wasn't expecting much, and I was pleasantly surprised. I enjoyed a good solid 4.5 hours of wrestling last night.
I agree. Like we went into this thinking like, can they put together a solid pay per view? You know, all less than basically 1 week from us having to put on a pay per view for in front of 81,000 people. And so, to my surprise, the answer was yes, they can. And boy, howdy, did they perform!
So there's two takeaways from this show. I learned a new phrase, boy howdy, and I can't get enough of CJ Perry.
Well, I appreciate everyone listening in to this recap of the AEW All Out pay-per-view. It's been a great one, a very surprising one. What's next for Orange Cassidy, the Elite, and many more wrestlers that we love to watch week in and week out? We'll have to wait and see, but we will be here on the And Still a Wrestling podcast.
Or CJ Perry.